Most people posting on LinkedIn are getting absolutely nothing out of it. You can post for a year straight and never have a single conversation that translates to revenue. LinkedIn isn't a lead machine that you just magically turn on. It's a room full of people that you want to work with. And it only works if you use it correctly. If you use LinkedIn for your business and you're posting, connecting, and commenting daily, but none of that is actually translating into revenue, then this episode is for you. Over 90% of people watching this podcast aren't actually subscribed, and we release conversations like this every single week. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast down below. Hi guys, welcome back to the podcast. So how to actually get B2B clients from LinkedIn is what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, well, I think obviously the first one is the fact that we need to say that, if you're not on LinkedIn and you're B2B or you even in business, I mean, LinkedIn is the platform for B2B businesses nowadays. In actual fact, normally when I receive any outreach from anybody, really, cold outreach that is, normally it gets filed away in the spam, unless they've already connected with me. So it's really important to make sure that you're on LinkedIn. And to be honest, it's a massive driver of revenue for most B2B businesses that know how to do it right.
Yeah. Well, when you look at, I put up a ad for a senior copywriter and it was on LinkedIn. We've had people reach out via email, but I feel like emails just get lost so easily. LinkedIn is definitely the way to go. Connect, have that relationship. Yeah.
Now, that's the thing, is building the relationship first. I mean, surely, we're supposed to, or in most cases, and especially in B2B, you generally buy for people that you know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
How can you possibly know, like, and trust somebody when they are sending you cold outreach and expecting you to sign up to a 100K a year contract? It's just not feasible, and people just need to start thinking a bit more logically and think about relationship building first before they start reaching out.
Yeah, and a lot of people treat their profiles as if they're writing for a job application, or, the headline is the job title, the about section is a career kind of history section in third person rather than speaking from experience.
Yeah, well, I mean, historically, that's what LinkedIn was. LinkedIn was all about, finding your next job and recruiters and things like that. But it's evolved over the years. And now, people are using it as a platform to build their own personal brands. And really, those are the people that stand out. Those are the people that get seen, like us, I suppose. And those
Yeah.
are the people that win the work, because people are resonating with what they're speaking about, especially if they're targeting the correct buyer personas and ICPs. And that's how business is done nowadays,
Yeah, well, they decide whether that you can solve a problem for them. If you have the solution, then they're gonna contact you and they're gonna employ you.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I mean, we've done it ourselves, and that's actually where people reaching out, but connecting first, so that we can understand exactly who they are and what their own values and things are.
Yeah.
Because we need to make sure, and anyone actually using LinkedIn to either recruit or even work with a client, should always make sure there's some good fit there either side. You're a good fit for them, they're a good fit for you, before you get into any contractual agreements.
Second thing is posting things that nobody can agree with. So there is a commonality of, consistency is key, culture matters, don't argue, type of situation on LinkedIn, I guess. But when you do that and you're posting the common things, goes straight in one ear, straight out the other, and people forget it. If you're posting controversial, opinions, and your honest opinions, people might not agree with it, but that's gonna have that conversation, and you can give your perspective on that, and it shows that you're human. You're not just using AI.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole point of this is, you need to have a point of view. That's and so does your business. There needs to be a goodie and a baddie in every relationship, and that's generally what people want. If people want to pick sides, am I on the side of the goodie, or am I on the side of the baddie? Who is it I'm going to pick sides with? I mean, our brand story is about wanting to do away with fragmentation and bringing cohesion to the end-to-end revenue system or and building that commercial architecture, you know. And to be honest, 99.99999% of all businesses have that fragmentation, and a lot of them don't really realize that there's a better solution out there. But I mean, if you take, for instance, you know, I do not like WordPress at all whatsoever. It was originally born out of the need for a blogging platform, and to be honest, that's what it still is. I'm surprised it still exists nowadays, but that's what happens when things are free. But you know, that in itself, if I started posting things about that, you know, people would probably disagree because the whole business is built on the WordPress platform, you know, etc., etc. So you need to have that, you know, that bit of controversy about, you know, what you believe in and what you value and things like that as well, and that's what gets the conversations going.
Yeah. The worst thing that you can ever do on LinkedIn, and you hate it and I hate it, is you send a connection request, you get accepted, and then you immediately pitch your services. There is nothing worse. Now, don't get me wrong, LinkedIn is a platform that you're supposed to connect with professionals and, find business on pretty much. But you need to create that emotional connection. You need to have that understanding of one another, and really create that friendship first rather than just messaging saying, hey, your website looks crap. Let me redo it.
Yeah, I know, with absolutely nothing, no substance behind what they're actually talking about. And, you know, this is one of my massive pet hates, and this is another reason I don't like cold outreach for that particular reason, because there's no relationship there, and a lot of people that are sending these DMs and cold outreach are making assumptions about your business because they've never even met you, they've never spoken to you. I mean, imagine meeting a prospective partner in the street and asking them to marry you right away. It doesn't happen in real life. You know, so why should it happen on LinkedIn? Yeah, it shouldn't. So if you're doing that, stop doing it. It's not bloody good.
Well, it trains people to ignore you, right? Because if you're sending that pitch straight off the bat, I tell you right now, I am not replying to that message. If you're engaging in my comments and you're adding value and you're getting to know me, and then you have that pitch, I'm probably more inclined to be like, all right, let's have a meeting and let's get to know each other, see if there's synergy. But if you pitch off straight off the bat, the chances of you getting ignored for every single message is probably 99.9%.
Yeah, 100%. And that is exactly the same with me. And that includes cold emails as well. You know, I mean, I know that we work in B2B, and cold outreach is a strategy that a lot of businesses take. I'm more a lover of inbound rather than outbound, just purely because it's much easier to actually build. Because at that particular time when you're doing inbound, you're actually building a market for yourself. You know, you're building your brand, you're educating your prospects, and when the prospects realise that they have that issue that you're talking about, that pain point, and you've got that solution, it makes the conversation so much easier. And that's why people, a lot of B2B businesses need to be investing in their marketing and their advertising constantly. If you're not advertising, no one knows you're there.
Yeah. So what actually works on LinkedIn is that you need to make your profile pretty much a landing page. So 3 things that should do the heavy lifting is a headline that says who you help and what changes for the prospect. So what changes for your ideal customer. An about section written to your client rather than just about yourself, and proof, real outcomes and specifics, not just objectives.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, people want to see, what have you actually done? I mean, the amount of DMs I get, and people, they add some outrageous claims, or even the opposite, where, when you're generating like between 40 and 80 leads a month for some of your clients, and someone comes on and says, well, we can get you 15 leads this month. You think, what are you actually doing then? Because we can do that ourselves. So it kind of works both ways, that. But proof and making sure your profile speaks to your ideal customer profile and your buyer personas and your prospects, who you've actually taken the time to build a relationship with, is exactly what you need. Everybody needs to have on LinkedIn, and that includes your company page as well.
And you need to be posting like you're talking to your clients. So the best content is always about the conversations you've had. Now, I had a conversation with Paul today about his fragmentation. He called a lot of his softwares and actually found out that he was going to save 70 grand a year just by getting rid of subscriptions and softwares that he wasn't actually using to its full potential. To me, I was like, this is perfect. This is exactly what we talk about. This is what I preach to my clients, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought, let me turn this into a LinkedIn post and explain why you need to be doing this and how much it's actually saving compared to if you were to invest that into a commercial infrastructure, a brand, and, you know, just building an empire, the return would be tenfold.
Yeah, of course, but most businesses don't do that. I mean, it's like this old adage where, you know, I need a website, so I'll go to a web designer. I need some ads, so I go to a marketing agency or an advertising agency. And a lot of the time, there's no strategy behind this. They just think that that's what they need because they're struggling to drive revenue, long term revenue. And you'll find as well that a lot of these companies don't even have an ICP defined. They don't know who their customers are. They think everybody's a customer and all this kind of stuff. So yeah,
Yeah. But you want to be speaking, you know, as if you're talking to your clients. It sounds like you, not just AI. It's, you know, you're giving social proof there because it's been tested on a real person. There's a lot more connectivity with
aye,
the
that's right.
reader and the writer.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it needs to be conversations, not just a case of broadcasting everything that's happening in your business. In a lot of cases, your prospects don't really care what's happening in your business. What they care about is how are you going to help me.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it's all about. So when you're posting things, you know, apart from obviously resonating with your ICP, I mean, obviously you would have a strategy around this, right? You would need to sit down and actually think about, you know, what are the pain points of my clients or prospects? How am I going to reach them? What's going to stop them scrolling
Yeah.
on LinkedIn to get them to read what I'm actually writing? And this is the thing as well, like when you're trying to build your own personal brand, you need to be writing consistently. Now, when I started writing consistently, and I'll say when I started, because I'm not doing it all the time because I'm so busy doing other things, but I need to get back into it. You know, I can see myself that there's more people connecting with me. There's more people resonating and discussing things and etc. etc. So it's definitely something you need to be doing is having those conversations, not just pumping content out there that nobody resonates or engages with. And if that is happening, and you know, you think to yourself, I've put out like 30 pieces of content, one a day for the past 30 days, nobody's engaging. That's the market telling you that your content's not actually working. So you need to go back to the grindstone, look at the strategy and reiterate and go back to the plan and build something that matters.
And the biggest thing is when someone comments on your post, reply properly rather than just like an emoji. Actually create a conversation out of that. And then you can end up following that up on messages with them. Hey, I seen you, you know, commented on my post. Thanks so much for engaging. You know, did you find it valuable? You can start that personal conversation there, and it doesn't need to end up in them becoming a client straight off the bat. You know, you're just creating that relationship. You're getting to know them. They're getting to know you. There's that trust building there.
That's right, 100%. And that's one of the good things about LinkedIn itself is it gives you a legitimate reason to start the conversation when
Yeah.
you're posting things. And when you're posting your own stuff to your own prospects and your own community and your own timeline and professional network, is going through the go through your timeline and actually converse, comment on other people's, you know, get your point of view heard, get seen. And I think anybody that's working on LinkedIn will know that that's the best way to grow your own.
So turning that attention into clients, how do you actually do it? You need to know exactly who you're talking to. You need to thrash out your ICP, that big content of, you know, symptoms of a vague audience, you know, uh, business owners type of writing that you're doing is just generic. Everyone sees it. It's just they just skim over it and go to the next one in one ear and out the other. You need to get specific about pain points, about who you're talking to, so it's written for them, so that when they read it, they're like, "Holy crap, I resonate with that. That's me. I'm in that position." You know?
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. And this is another reason, you know, you need to make sure that you've not got a vague audience either. You know, I mean, I get DM'd and added pretty much every day, and I'm not selective with who I connect with. I connect with everybody because some of the stuff that might not resonate with them might resonate with someone else. And it's what I learned back in BNI days and other networking events was it's not the people in the room, it's their network that you could be reaching as well, you know, because they might not require your services, but they might know someone that does. Just be try and be a bit more targeted with who you're connecting with, you know, because obviously that'll have a big determination on who's actually engaging with your content as well.
The next one is this, I think this is probably the biggest one in this document, is give the answer away. So a lot of people fear telling people how to fix their problems and that nobody will pay you. But it actually works the other way around. When you tell people what you do and how you do it, they will take that advice. They'll maybe try to do it themselves. Don't get me wrong, they might try. They'll realize how much work it actually is, and then they'll pay you to do it.
I mean, I've got a prime example of this. I mean, when I first started in business, I was running a car detailing business in Edinburgh. I had 12 staff. And at that time, I was starting to learn how to program code, which was PHP and HTML and CSS at the time. And what I found was when I was developing Zencart, an e-commerce system way back in the day. I mean, this has gone back like 24 years. And what happened is when I was learning, I was implementing things. I was coming up with, you know, I wonder what would happen if I got it to do this and I wrote code to do that. And what happened is I got to the point where I was actually showing people on forums, take this code, copy the code, drop it in here, add it to this between day two lines on this particular page, big massive documentation on a post on how to do it with a downloadable zip file for them to do it themselves. But what I found was people were still paying me to do it. So what was happening is I was getting paid £50 it was back in the UK to drag and drop the modified files into their own instance via FTP. It took me literally 5 seconds and I was getting a review. So I ended up with hundreds of reviews and a hell of a lot of money. Even though I was giving away the information on how to actually do things. So normally when people are scared of telling people how to fix things themselves, you know, that might actually show that they maybe lack confidence in their own abilities and things. But what I would suggest you do is be confident, you know, understand that most people out there don't know what you already know in terms of what you do and how you do it. So tell people how you do it, you know, because people are busy doing their own thing. Plus, you'll find that 99.9% of people are lazy, so they'll not want to do it anyway. And that's just the way life is. And that's why services exist.
The next thing is make the next step obvious. Now, a lot of people post consistently and they never say, what to do if they want help. They don't add a CTA at the end. And I've seen a few posts on LinkedIn that's a bit controversial of you shouldn't add a CTA because it's, old school. Not every post has to go to something. And while I do agree not every post has to relate to something, you still need to add that CTA. If you're doing an educational post, hey, about websites, hey, if you want some help with this, send me a message and I can help. Or, hey, if you want to learn how to do what I do, here's my course. People are going to click through, and the ones that don't probably aren't your clients. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, I think the point of that is to make it more conversational rather than an opportunity to try and sell. Because people hate being sold to, especially on LinkedIn. I mean, you don't go to LinkedIn to buy a course. But what you do is you go there to engage with other like-minded people and people that you follow to learn from them. And if you've been following someone and you've connected with them and you're engaging with them and they say, look, I've got a course that can help you do X, Y, and Z, the chances are they're going to take it anyway. So it's always good to make sure you add that next step in there. That's why there's been a lot of people claiming to be have made millions on LinkedIn because that's how they do it. You know, they build the following first, and it's all about making sure that they're building that relationship first before they go in for the sale, if you like. But again, when you do go in for the sale, you make sure that it's more conversational and that it's being helpful.
So what do you want to avoid on LinkedIn is automating your connection requests. Some of the tools promise numbers at a large scale. And if you're sending a generic message to heaps of people, you're just gonna get marked as spam, which you don't want. It's a risk to your account. It's only, you know, Derek's a bit different to me. I only connect with people I really know or, people I want in my network, type of thing. Whereas Derek will, connect with anyone. But, I don't know. What do you think? Because I think there needs to be a bit of method to the madness when it comes to LinkedIn.
Well, I don't think you should be automating your connection requests. I mean, I know
No,
that there's
no.
a lot of browser-based systems out there that allow that to happen. To me, that's spamming people. You know, if you actually go and physically going to connect with someone, in my personal opinion, there needs to be a reason. You know,
Yeah.
if I'm reading a post on LinkedIn and I like what I've read, then I'll connect with them. I don't just blindly connect with people. When people come through and connect with me, I generally do still accept a request, because I like what I do. They've maybe read something, and that is the case in a lot of cases where they've read some of my posts and they resonated with that. So that's why I connect with them. But yeah, I don't think you should be automating any connection requests. Sure, you can send, I think you get about 200 or something a month if you're a premium member, or 100. And by all means, find people in your prospective industry with your target or your target industry and people that work in that industry and your target ICP and connect with them and try and help them. But don't do it, on an automated way, on a kind of spray and pray kind of
Yeah.
strategy. That's just not the way to do things.
Yeah. Another thing you don't want to do is be chasing vanity metrics. It's so easy to look at impressions and likes and feel like there's so much progress there, but impressions and likes don't correlate to revenue. 200 views reaching four of your exact fit buyers compared to 20,000 people who would never contact you, is that 200 views is so much more powerful than the 20,000.
That's right, and one of the other things is actually when they're posting things is actually stopping before they actually see any return on
Mm.
the content that they're posting because they think it's not working. But we've been doing this for over 2 years now. And sometimes you think, well, are there people actually seeing this? Are people resonating with this? And then one day you wake up and you've got a DM for somebody asking for a meeting because they've read one of your posts that you posted 10 months ago. So it's not, you need to be in this for the long term, just like in business. It's about building that relationship, and you don't build that relationship over one or two posts. You need to be doing it over years of posting.
And this isn't just about posting. This is about SEO. It's about, building a personal brand. It's about a revenue system. It's about growing your business. Everything. You need to just continuously keep going, even if you're not like instantly reaping rewards.
Well, it's like going to the gym, Chloe. I mean, when you go to the
Yeah.
gym in January, you've got every man and their dog signing up to the gym because, they think they're going to get fit and huge and lose fat and all the rest of it. They go for 6 weeks. And I'll tell you, at the beginning, even if you take time off as a seasoned pro, if you like, and you go back, it's hard to get back into it. So you
Yeah.
can imagine that in February, 99.9% of those people who signed up in January drop off and are stuck in an annual contract, to pay because they give up far too early. And it's the people that give up far too early that lose out on what could have been. You need to take a long-term approach on anything that's worth doing.
Well, most people fail at LinkedIn is because they stop doing it before it starts working. Because they're not seeing that instant, oh, nobody's commenting on my post, so I'm not going to post anymore. Just keep posting, be controversial, put your thoughts out there. Well, that's all we have for today. LinkedIn isn't a lead machine. It's the room that your buyers are already standing in, and, being useful in it consistently. It's the whole strategy. If you're not sure where to start, or you're posting sporadically and you're not able to turn that attention into clients, give us a call, give us a contact at boderia.io/contact. That's boderia.io/contact. And we can show you your gaps, and we can do an audit of your business and show you why a revenue system is what you need. If you found this valuable, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, because we release conversations like this every single week. Beautiful.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Cheers,
guys.
guys. Bye bye.
Bye.